I'm going to show you how to cook some of my favorite dishes with cauliflower. Cauliflower is particularly delicious in the winter as it gets sweeter as the temperature drops. So we're going to talk a little bit about how to get into the cauliflower. And as you can see, cauliflower, it keeps quite well in the fridge, again, up to about a week or 10 days, loosely wrapped in plastic, but it can develop a little bit of sort of brown spots, which are not problematic at all. And I say just give them a little shave. It just needs a little bit of a haircut. So I just take a paring knife and remove the brown parts, and see the rest of it is just beautiful underneath. So there we go. If your cauliflower has some leaves on it, if you've maybe gotten it at the farmer's market or in your CSA, the leaves are quite tender and delicious, and you can chop them up and use them in any way you would be using the cauliflower. Or if you have a lot of leaves attached, you can make a separate dish like you would any leafy green with those cauliflower leaves. Now we're going to cut it in half. And cauliflowers have a bit of a core, which usually is very tender, and you just want to chop it up a little bit smaller than the florets because it's a little denser and takes a little bit longer to cook. So only the very bottom I ever really take off and discard. The rest of this is going to be tender and delicious, and you really don't want to throw away because then you're going to waste half of your cauliflower. And I really prefer cauliflower cooked to raw. I think it's much more flavorful. So simply roasted cauliflower is, from my experience, one of the most crowd-pleasing dishes you can make. My son and everybody I know sort of fights over it at the counter before you even get it to the table. So to do that, we're just going to cut core, chop that a little finer, and we're going to just cut. I'm not going to worry about the florets being perfect. I'm going to cut it in slabs and then break it down. You can take your time and pick them apart and make them nice and even, or you can just be quicker about it and give it a cut or two to get it somewhat even size so that it cooks at about the same rate. And you're going to want to roast cauliflower at a high temperature to get all that wonderful crispy edges. So 400, 425 is good for roasting cauliflower. And I just want to cut the pieces of core a little bit smaller. So I've put the cauliflower on the sheet pan. You want a nice big one. You want to have plenty of space so that it's not really steaming in there. You want space around it, you don't want to crowd it. And you just want to have your core a little bit smaller. And then all we're going to do is drizzle it with olive oil. And sprinkle it with a little bit of salt. You can always salt it a little bit more after the fact, which it often needs. And we're going to just toss it a little bit, which you could do in a bowl, or you could save yourself the dish and just do it on the pan. And then spread it out evenly. And then this will go in the oven for about, depends on your oven and how large you cut the pieces, but it can be done in like 20, 25 minutes, or it can take a little bit longer if your pieces are bigger. Cauliflower is also delicious mashed, like you might mash potatoes, or you could mash it with potatoes and do part cauliflower and part potato. So for that, you just want to boil it, and then just like you would mash potatoes, add some of the same things, salt, pepper, some cream, some butter, and you have a really delicious alternative to straight up mashed potatoes. A really fun thing to do with cauliflower is to kind of cut it and cook it like you would a steak. So you can make big slabs, and you want to cut always from, not around the equator, so to speak, but from top to bottom so that the core keeps the slab together. So here's our nice slab of cauliflower steak, which you can sear in a cast iron pan with some olive oil and seasoning any way you like. Just salt and pepper is delicious, or you could go with sort of Indian spices like cumin and turmeric and chili. That would be delicious as well. And you want to sear that in a skillet and turn it regularly to get it cooked through. And then you have this wonderful crispy steak that you can serve with aioli or some kind of a sauce, or just as is. Cauliflower also makes a delicious mac and cheese variety. So I make a sauce where I boil the cauliflower and then blend that with just some vegetable broth and some cheese and a little bit of Dijon mustard, salt and pepper. And then you just use that sauce with your favorite pasta, and you can top it with some breadcrumbs if you want, a little bit more cheese, and bake that for a really flavorful and a little bit lighter version than your typical mac and cheese. I love the combination of garbanzo beans and cauliflower. So if you have a can of garbanzo beans or chickpeas, here are some dried chickpeas, garbanzo beans that haven't been cooked yet. You can saute little chunks of cauliflower for just a few minutes with a little bit of water to get them tender. And then you can add the cooked garbanzo beans or canned, and then a little bit of turmeric, which is a wonderful Indian spice, and a little bit of garlic if you'd like. And then you saute those things together and you warm up the chickpeas through, and then you top it with a little bit of just plain yogurt and some cilantro, and you have a really quick sort of pantry dish that's really good anytime. Cauliflower is also really delicious with eggs, especially in the form of a frittata, which is just a baked egg dish that you can do on the stovetop and finish in the oven. Parsley is a lovely addition with that, as is cheese, which is a wonderful combination with cauliflower. So whether you're mashing it or turning it into a steak, or making a variety of mac and cheese, or just simply sauteing it with some canned garbanzo beans, cauliflower is a total workhorse. It's delicious, and it's particularly delicious in the wintertime.